by the Citizens Energy Advice Reducing Energy Poverty, and it will be presented by Adriana Koppert.
Hi, Adriana Koppert. Hi, I will present instead of our director, Vlasta Krmel. Unfortunately, due to other obligations, she was not able to attend. I am Adriana Koppert, and I will present to you on behalf of Energy Agency of Podravia our good practice called Citizen Energy Advice. Next slide, please. For many years, Energap already offers free advisory service and energy retrofit support for marginal groups and those experiencing energy poverty. Energap offers their free energy advice over the phone and at their homes. An energy advisors inspect the heating or installation systems in citizens' apartments or houses and suggest solutions or improvements. Next slide, please. Energy experts also explain the possibility of obtaining grant funding from the Eco Fund, which can be up to 100% grants funding for vulnerable consumers who are affected by energy poverty. If the outside temperatures are low enough, he will also be able to inspect their buildings with the thermographical camera to show any heat losses in the building. Energap also offers advice and information on soft measures how to save energy, like closing windows, ventilation, turning off the lights, energy efficient construction or renovation of residential buildings, restoration of heating system, possibility of co-funding and obtaining loans for the implementation of measures in the field of renewable energy systems and energy efficiency, investments in heating system, installation or the replacement in general, installation of wood biomass center heating combustion plants, and installation of solar heating system, and also in purchase of economical goods. Next slide, please. Thank you. The agency advice is unique in that it offers free advice and assistance for citizens in several areas. The possibility of getting a free energy certificate, thermal camera inspection, assistance in applying for financial subsidies. The advisory service is financed by municipality and Eco Fund, Slovenian Environmental Public Fund. Eco Fund gives subsidies and grants for implementation of the energy efficient measures and use of renewable energy sources. Citizens can get up to 50% of subsidies, and energy poor can get up to 100% of subsidies. Agency advisors cooperate with the Slovenian Red Cross organizations also. Energap also cooperates with Slovenian Energy Advisory Network managed by the Eco Fund. Their consultants also carry out the activity of reducing energy poverty of citizens. Citizens who are receiving welfare can register for a free home visit by energy advisors, and SWET provides free of charge and individual advice to households and helps potential investors to select, plan, and carry out energy efficient and renewable energy investment in residential buildings. This network includes more than 70 independent qualified advisors who are operated in 50 different local offices across Slovenia. Next slide, please. Energap started this good practice soon after the establishment of the Energy Agency in year 2006. Energap provides energy advice to all citizens free of charge and will continue to do so in the future. Energap is the energy manager of some surrounding municipalities in the Podravia region. and the city municipality of Maribor, second biggest city in Slovenia. The service is financed by municipalities in the region as part of the contract for the municipalities. Energa performs many other tasks, including advising citizens. Energa also prepares trainings and education in the field of renewable energy sources and energy efficiency for citizens. The cost of consulting are minimal for municipalities, included in the contract that I previously said, and are performed daily as part of the agency operation. Energa also offers free energy advice over the phone for all citizens, even for those with whom it does not have contract. Energa advisory service is 100% funded from municipality and NSVET from EcoFund. In Podravia region are 5 advisors available to give people advice. Next slide, please. Evidence of success or indicators are numbers of people to whom advice has been given by Energa. Those figures are recorded on annual basis in the annual work report of the agency. In the year 2021, Energa provided energy advice for more than 6,100 people in person and over the phone. Other indicator that is reduced CO2 in the number of renewable homes with the grant from EcoFund. Those figures are also obtained for each municipality on annual basis, which shows how much investments in renovations and assistance for social and for energy poor has been given. Next slide, please. We have some challenges because it's a problem to attract people to cooperate with us, to come to our workshops. Therefore, advisory services are organized also not only in cities, but also in villages, at their homes, schools, or via web. Next slide, please. Our good practice, I think, is easy transferable to other countries. You have to have only consultant. We are also establishing OneStop Shop this year for energy issues for the surrounding municipalities. Something similar, I think, will be feasible in other countries or regions. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is all from my side. If you have some questions, free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Do we have any questions for Adriana from the floor? Brian, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adriana. Nice, lovely presentation, very informative. I'm just curious as to how you staff it, or how do you provide the service? Is it full-time staff, part-time staff?
It's our staff from energy agency. We have 2 experts in this field, but all of us, 9 of us that we are employed there, we try to answer and help people if they have something that we know. Otherwise, we gave also numbers from NSVET advisor that are employed from EcoFund.
So basically, if I was in a bit fuel poverty and I came to your organisation, I said, I'd like you to come out and have a look. You'd come out, do a free audit, do a certificate, etc., to say that you're at such a rating or whatever, and then you do recommendations, kind of guide the person along the track. Completely free.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Rose, do we have any other questions?
I have a question just for myself. Adriana, thank you very much for your presentation. Very interesting, and I've always liked this particular good practice. But you mentioned in your presentation that you had challenges that you were facing to recruit some of the people who were suffering from energy poverty, and you're starting to work with some of the schools and villages. And could you tell us a little bit, are you partnershiping with?
We are cooperating with the Red Cross to identify people that are energy poor, because it's difficult. They are maybe ashamed to come forward themselves, because we are advising to all people, not only energy poor, everyone that calls to us and needs help from some reasons. They want to renovate something, or they don't know how to fulfill eco-fund subsidies formats. We help them in any case, but we are cooperating with the Red Cross and with the energy advisor from NSWET and EcoFund.
And how do you find the phone engagement piece? You know, if somebody rings you, and you said that you do a lot of phone calls to people, how does that process work?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't understand it.
What I'm saying is, you know, part of your service involves kind of a telephone call interaction.
Okay. They usually call us because we have our number is on EcoFund listed, and they usually, if they need help, they call us. Please.
Do you give them advice over the phone, or do you always have
over the phone? If they need it, our colleague that is expert in this field, he goes also to visit if it's necessary.
Okay. Anything else for us in the chat?
Yeah, just one there. Part of a question in from Lena, who is one of our Power Project partners. I think part of the question was answered already by Adriana. Yes. But Lena just wanted you as well to know, do you actually interact with the agency that provides social welfare, the department that provides social welfare? Do you interact with them to try?
No, we don't have interaction with them, usually with Red Cross.
Okay. Because
it's a little difficult with social welfare department. They are not prepared to cooperate with. They don't have time or people for this, and usually we don't. We didn't till now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adriana.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Adriana. We will now present our next speaker, who is Zaneta. I'm going to have a go at this. Matrowska.
Oh, close enough.
Yeah,
very close.
From Marivowa Energy Agency in Poland, and she's going to be speaking about smart invent energy poverty identification. Like this?
I can try it. I can try it.
Just the arrow.
Arrow? Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, yes, I managed. So yes, I would like to present to you something else, something that we didn't talk about a lot, because it's maybe it's a bit step backwards, because it's all about the identification of energy poverty, energy poor households. We were talking a lot about implementation, about action. We are in the process of right now, we are in the process of only identification, and then we would like to learn from you also how we can do more, how we can get a step forward from this action that we are implementing now. So a little bit of backstory, how we started, how this all happened with this smart intent application. In 2020, energy poverty in Poland reached almost 22%. And increased by nearly 14% from 2019. So this was a huge number for us, and this was a bit of a wake-up call to implement some action and to see this problem is increasing. And in Poland, as much of 80% of heated is generated in individual heating sources, devices in the households. And only 24% of the household is connected to the district heating network. So this is a big problem here. And they're mostly using coal. As you can see, Polish households burn 87% of the coal allocated to all households in the EU. It was cut in the slide. So this is something that we see as a potential area of improvement. And it is also, it is caused by many reasons, mostly the lack of infrastructure, but also people are afraid a bit that the cost of this heat from district heating network will be much higher than the individual heating sources. So our main idea and the regional authority main idea was there is a lack of information. We don't know how is the energy poverty really in the region, how is the state of the buildings, how is the state of energy sources, what is the main issues, how we can support and how we can help and how we can allocate public funds which are changing in the new perspective and to prioritize the areas that really need our intervention and really need public donation, public funds to change their behaviors and to change their sources. So with that having in mind, and also this resolution that is in our region, it was developed in 2018, and it states that from 2023, people cannot use boilers that don't meet specific energy efficiency requirements. And these boilers usually are very expensive to change. And people mostly use the boilers that we call the thrashers, and because they emit a lot of smog and a lot of pollution. So with that having in mind, the regional authority came up with this program, funding program for municipalities. Let's check how the situation is really in the region. Let's check how many boilers needs replacement, how many people are not willing to replace it because of many reasons. Let's give municipalities funding for the real data that we can use to allocate public funds into the municipalities that really need it. So this way we came, Mazovia Energy Agency saw an opportunity to develop a tool that can be helpful for municipalities, that can be paid by regional authority because it is co-financed from a regional authority. And we developed smart event application that is based on 3 modules that I will describe later: the web application, the central application, and the mobile application. But we didn't want to just limit ourselves with a heating source. We wanted, if we were doing this, we wanted to collect as comprehensive data as we can. So we not only collected data on the heating sources, but also on the state of the buildings. So if the buildings are insulated, were they modernized? Why they weren't? What's the fuel consumption? What's your income? What's your barriers to perform those activities? So this application starts with the database that we are getting from the municipality. It is address building database that and all the data that municipalities can provide us. So mostly it's year of the building and also the curvature of the buildings. This is the data that is put in the application, and then we can start the inventory. And the inventory, we started the inventory, unfortunately, at the beginning of COVID. So as you all experienced, it was quite challenge. We developed the web application. So this is mainly a survey to limit person-to-person contact and to give municipality residents opportunity to develop and to answer all the questions by themselves. So we didn't have to meet them in person and with this all COVID limit the communication physically. So this web application was 16 questions based. We developed this very carefully to limit any mistakes that they can give us, because they're not technical people. They can have some lack of knowledge. They can not know what we want from them. So the 16 questions were basically closed questions. So you would select yes, no, and you will select, for example, if the building was thermomodernized, was insulated, you will select from the list how it was and when it was. If the windows were placed in 21st century, you can select this. If you're using renewables, you can select from the listed renewables. If you put that the curvature is 1 million, it blocks you. So we tried to develop it as much as we could, but we faced a little bit of problem because most of the municipalities that we work with were rural municipalities. There were older people who didn't really use the computer so much, and they didn't trust us. So we developed this idea that this face-to-face meetings will be crucial, and we will not skip them in any way. But I will tell you about that a bit later. The next module was the central application, the whole brain of the application. So this is where a municipality or administrator of the account can see all the data coming. They can edit the data. They can import reports from the data. So we have a lot of data in the cloud, but the system is preparing reports for you. So you don't have to click on each building separately and see the data. I will say which reports we have in a minute. And it also gives the opportunity to administrator to arrange interviewers. So assign the interviewers the area that they're collecting data, and also help interviewers, because the interviewers has opportunity to also take pictures if, for example, they do not know what the heating source is. So in this segment, you can analyze all the data that they are sending from the area that they're interviewing. And the third model is the mobile application. It can be downloaded on the Android system only. Unfortunately, it was too expensive for iPhones, but you can upload it on your phone, on the tablets, and it works even if the connection to the internet is not there. It saves the data, and when you are in the space that the internet is there, it's sending the data to the central application. So this was our main idea for the interviewers to go in the field, because when we conducted the inventory, we reached 40–60% of attendance of the citizens. But when we put interviewers in the field, we reached the attendance of 80% of people wanted to speak to us and giving us the data because of the direct contact. And the reports. Right now, we have only the reports intended from this program that regional authority wanted. So when they heard about our idea, they asked us for these reports. And it's inventory attendance, building age structure, type of buildings, insulation, renewables, fuel consumption, heat source, and so on. So you can just click on the report section and import the reports, where it's combined all the data from the municipality. But we have also another data, and the reports can be made. There can be made more reports than this. And this is the interface that it looks with, because from the central application you can also map the buildings and map the areas, so it's more visible in our way. And this was also an opportunity to us to maybe extend this application a bit. And we added something that we think it will be also useful, the air quality sensors. So in Poland, the government have located air quality sensor in some areas. We make our application also compatible with this air quality sensors, and we can see the correspondence of what heating source is used, how is the air quality around the area. And if you zoom on the building, you can see the heating source, you can see the data on the buildings, and you can see the level of income and what is the main issues that the buildings have, why it is not thermodernized, why they don't want to change the heating source. Is it the low income? Is it the lack of knowledge? Is it many reasons? So that's why we can locate it, and we can also flag it. So we can see in the next interface that this is the area that we need to make interventions. And yes, our good practice, we pilot our good practice in 7 municipalities and 1 city to have some rural and urban exchange and check if this application is suitable, if the attendance is high enough in rural and urban areas. And we, by now, interviewed 25,000 buildings. So this is, with a small energy agency as ours, it is a bit high number. And as I mentioned, this is our first goal, to identify buildings. We sent all the data to regional authorities, and they're based on those data and based on the number of buildings that need support and numbers of heating sources that need to be replaced, they preparing the new financing program. And they will prioritize the municipalities that need more interventions. They will prioritize, for example, exchange of heating sources. So finally met the Mazovian anti-smoke resolution. And we are still working with the application. We are working with together with municipalities, because when the public funds will be available, we will definitely prioritize the buildings, the households that have to have more support because of the low income, because all of this data is already available, but we need to use it, and that's the next step. And this is also something that we saw very helpful, because most of these people know us in the state, so that we develop some kind of a trust to them, and they believe that we want to help them and we want to support them in thermodernization, in replacement of heating sources. So that's going to be our next step with this good practice. And what were the main challenges? There were quite many, very many small ones. For example, this is a funny story actually. One of the wives came to us, and she wanted to make an inventory for her husband because he was burning trash. And she hoped that the police will come and will arrest him because she didn't like the divorce or something. So that was one of our main challenge. But the first challenge that we faced was low attendance. And this was the challenge that we fought with the inventory in field, but also with this giving a carrot. If you're gonna give us an answer to our questions, we will make sure that the fundings will be there for you to use. We will come back to you. We will help you, support you with this thermodernization of replacement of heating source. And the second problem was the resident filling the data. Our first idea for this online survey was, it was a very open survey. People could write whatever they wanted. And it caused a lot of problems with understanding that oil boilers are not renewables, or gas boilers are not renewables, even if you want them to be. But we limit this with our changes in the survey. So that's the challenges that were the biggest one that we could identify. And how transferable is the good practice? I think it's very transferable, because it's something that you all can think of, and you all can use it to identify. As I mentioned, this is a bit maybe a step back for you with the all implementation phases, but this is something that we started with, and we check it in the rural and urban areas, and it suits and it fits, and it can be used whenever you want, wherever you want, and I hope it can maybe inspire you a bit. So yes, thank you. Any questions? No questions, thank you. Okay.
It's an excellent good practice, really clever. What I particularly like about it is the fact that it identifies fuel poverty.
Yeah.
And it also tells you the reason why they're in fuel poverty,
Yeah.
in that they're low income or whatever the case may be. So obviously, once you've identified those houses, then you can kind of target those houses. So I really like it. Do we have any questions from the floor? Anybody?
Yes.
I'm very curious because I think it's very interesting for us. I am the former president of the Energy Agency of Firenze. And
Yes,
one
I
of the
remember.
things we did, remember, one of the things we did, we sent inspectors in the houses to control how the heating or other energy consumption was made. But what is your strategy in the sense, when you have all this data, what do you propose to the tenants to use still use Coke, but with another device, a better one, or do you think to just change even the main source?
The primary idea was that they will change not for coal but maybe for wood. That was our primary idea. With this whole political situation that we have now, because the most people rely, if they don't rely on coal, they rely on gas. And with the high price of gas, they cannot be convinced to only reach wood or any other sources. That they're very, the mindset is all so focused on the coal. But our first step for this is to have this boilers exchange for an energy efficient one, because most of the people, you can believe it or not, they construct their own boilers. They're constructing,
I believe it, because
yeah.
Absolutely, in Italy we had the same problem with
Yeah.
wood. So
And they do not meet any requirements, and they're very unsafe for them, because there's a lot of cases in winter, especially when there is a lot of pollution in the house, and they die because of it. And yeah, so this is something that is a crucial problem. But the main step here is that we convince regional authority that these areas needs more funding, and they should not focus only on the urban areas, but these municipalities in particular, who need more funding for changing of energy source. And in this case, they could get funded 80% of to exchange the boiler, and the 20% can be reached by can be added from municipality if their income are not satisfied to change this boiler. So this is our main idea. The only problem that we have now, what about the fuel, buying the fuel? Because this is the problem for later. But another solution for this is also thermomodernize the building, so they can use the fuel less fuel.
sure, and just another question.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of the percentage that you can reach to lower the emission from
Yeah.
coke? If you have a new, I mean, you use coke, you still use coke. You have an old, inefficient device, but you have now a new stove or something less, or something better. How much is the reduction with the new and modern?
60%.
How much?
60%.
60%.
60%. Yeah.
I hope it more.
I hope. I'm not very optimistic, but this is 60%.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a good start for.
But this anti-smoke resolution, actually, it was a big dream of our regional authority. Let's change all the boilers till 2023. And this findings for our application for this from this funding program stated that we still need to change 80% of boilers.
And did you find in your data, you've obviously done 25,000 households,
Yes.
which is enormous.
Yeah.
Did you find in your data that the people in energy poverty were the ones that were just had these homemade boilers and were flogging in the coal? So it was those ones that needed the attention first.
We find that they weren't afraid to call send us data, because they were so eager to get the funding, because they wanted it to change.
Yeah.
And we have to make a lot of lobbying that if you're gonna say, I'm burning trash, I'm burning old boiler, we're not gonna come with police to you and arrest you for this. This was a lot of convincing, but more people that are unable to support the change of the heating source, came to us and fill in this.
And of the 25,000 households, how many do you think moved on to the next step?
Right now, not many because the fundings are still frozen.
But you have the data now to push.
Yeah. Yes. So I hope it will start in autumn, very fast. But as for now, I cannot tell you how the data is because it's still.
Do you have any other questions from the floor?
Well, just thanks to Anita, very informative presentation. Just on the web application itself, so did you find any resistance from certain types of homeowners, or did you find that the data you were getting was actually, when you went on site, what was on site, what they were saying, or was there discrepancies between what the homeowners were saying in the survey and what you were actually doing and seeing?
Yes, at the beginning there was a big diversity, what they were saying that they have. And when we came to house, we can see that this is not it. They said that they have a wooden boiler, and it was obviously the coal boiler. But this is why we think the most crucial was this inventory field, because when the person sat with them, sometimes they thought for 2 hours they ate dinner with them or something. So this was a very long talk, but when they explain everything to them, that this is not something that if you say something that is not true, it's not going to benefit you in any way. So when the explanation started and when we started the inventory field, this data were corresponding with each other. But before that, we faced a lot of this, that this not.
No, I think it's very good that you get the homeowners engaged.
Yes.
About the house.
Yeah, we tried to skip it because of COVID, but we managed to see that.
We do, in our organisation, we do not the same thing, but when somebody rings, we have a tracker and we ask a lot of the questions that you do.
Yeah.
But obviously, you've gone way more into depth in that. You have it mapped, etc., and then you can just click on the thing. So, like, we're nowhere near that, but we do in our organisation, we do collect the data because the data obviously is crucial in terms of, right, this is the situation here. These people are in fuel poverty. You need to do something about it. So, yeah. Data is key, isn't it?
Yeah. In our case, yes, that was our first step, especially with this changing financial perspective, because we didn't have financing opportunities to give them. So what we were doing in this 2 years gap, we tried to collect the data so we can get this funding and send it more efficiently to the people.
Any other questions from the floor?
Just to follow on there, thanks in to say that you're empowering the citizens. But when you did a sit down and an interview with a homeowner, did you ask them to get involved and maybe they could help their neighbour complete the survey?
Yes, we in Poland we have this rural areas that there is one person, I don't know how we call it in English, it's not a mayor but it's a citizen man that is communicating, and we had this meetings with this community man or woman, not to be that we sit together, and he called all his friends, all his colleagues, and we sat together and together we fill in all the data. And this was a good opportunity because if we teach him, he could go around and help people, and the trust is higher with him. Because we are coming from city, we are not very known to the people, and he is someone that he or she is someone that they trust. So that was our approach, and we also, this is funny because we also come to the priests and ask them to maybe could you, because Poland is mostly Catholic, so we ask them, could you from the Ambony say that we are doing something and this is a good thing. So the priests also were involved.
I thought you were going to say you asked the priest to bless it.
Yeah, that's a nice idea, actually.
Father, can you give this your blessing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the floor? Sorry, Mark.
I'm very interested in this because I think you're right. I think you have to have some sort of an evidence base and some sort of data to really secure the level of investment that you're going to require in Poland. And I do think this is a great step to providing that. And with that, wishing you the very best of luck in securing your funding. But I think the area that I was quite interested in is the fact that you've given as much importance to the rural areas. Because I think what we find, particularly here in Ireland, and this is my question to you, when we move to some of our rural areas, the level of options open to people in rural areas as to what they can change to and how they can become more fit is much more limited than in our urban centres. And I'm just wondering if you're experiencing that also in Poland.
Yes, it was a big problem because the city that we did last, and most of the people are connected to district heating network, or are connected, they have gas system. So it was very easy. The percentage of people that need support was so much lower. And in case of rural areas, they do not have option to connect to district heating network and get any subsidies for example, bills. They can only change thermodynamic building, and they can change the boiler because they have limited access. And also they can get renewables, but it still costs a lot of money. And we wanted to focus on this mostly also because from 300 municipalities in Mazovia, 80% of them is rural. So this is something that we need to focus, and the problem with this individual heating sources and the coal and the emission is mostly rural based. So this is something that we would like to focus more, and cities are not our priority really. And this is what we showed also regional authority, that they should focus on the rural areas.
And I know it's a first step for you to replace the boilers, but as a first step to reduce the emissions by 60% is a huge first step. So well worth the investment, I think, in Poland. So congratulations.
I mean, once you have a boiler that's much more efficient, it's saving money for the tenant straight away. Because every single piece of coal they put in, it's just saving money.
Yeah, and people don't understand it. They think that if they saved money for construction the boiler, they didn't have to pay for buying a new boiler. They save a lot of money, and they don't see the longer perspective. They can save money along the way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's an instant save.
Yes.
Straight away.
Exactly.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the floor or any from the chat?
No, I think we've probably covered them all.
You can rest now. Zura from Italy, which is going to be presented by Simona, and the topic is on energy poverty behavior change program. So I'll hand you over now to Simona. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am Simone Maggiore. I'm making this presentation on Energia su Misura, which is a project we have done here at RSC. Myself and my colleague Anna Ralini, who could not participate in the presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, a couple of words about who we are, who is RSC. So if you didn't hear about it before. So RSC is a Ricerca Sistema Energetico, is a public-owned research company, which is based in Milan. It's owned by the Italian ministry. In particular, in our research group, which both me and Anna are in, we focus on energy efficiency. And one of the topics inside energy efficiency is end user engagement and the involvement of end user. And inside this, energy poverty represents a big issue. Next slide, please. So, to name a couple of works and activities we have done about energy poverty. Energia su Misura, which is a project, an Italian project, and which it was the base to build an EU H2020 project, which is called Assist Together, in which RSC, we were the coordinator of the pilot action at the national level. So, at the moment, what we are doing, we are making some statistical analysis about energy poverty in order to develop some energy poverty indicator to understand what are the minimum energy needs of those households. And one of the aspects we are trying to focus in these years is to correlate the energy poverty with the health issues of the people who live in such houses. And we have seen that there is a relation between a worsening in the health of the vulnerable people with respect to the other families. So this is important. We are developing, we have some collaboration with other municipalities and other health offices in Italy. And we are also trying to explore the relation between the sustainable mobility and also energy poverty. All these projects which we are doing in RSC are public funded. Therefore, our results are public and you can find the results on our website. Next slide, please. So we want to discuss Energia su Misura, such a good practice. So what is our goal? The goal is to support vulnerable families, and in order to make them more aware about the energy issues inside their houses, to make them part of this old system, which they can feel more empowered to participate in this energy system, and therefore improve their quality of lives. Therefore, we asked the help of the municipality of Milano, which together with the municipality of Milano, we were able to get access to a series of public houses, all based in Milano. And with the help always of some representatives of the municipality of Milano, we were able to install some kits whose goal was to monitor the consumption of the house. Therefore, we assisted all these houses during the installation and the monitoring for a different months. And for each houses, we provided a customized advice. Therefore, the name Energia su Misura means tailor-made, customized, because it's very important that even though all the users, the families were vulnerable, but they were different. So we had to find a specific advice, a tailor-made advice for each of them. With them, we also helped to provide this feedback and follow this family also during the implementation of this feedback, to see how much they understood about the process, if our feedback were successful, and try to improve where it was possible. So it was very important. We learned a lot of lessons. We also implemented some events in Milan and also in other parts of Italy to raise awareness about the energy poverty issue. Next slide, please. Okay, so how the system works? The system is very simple. We have a monitoring plug, the smart plugs for each advices, one smart plug for the smart meter, which were all connected to the cloud. Therefore, we received all the data after the installation, and thanks to this, we were able to build the typical load curves of the different appliances, because their consumption were monitored with a 15 minutes interval, and we are able to also to define the habits, the consumption habits of each family. Therefore, there were two main goals. The first one is to improve the energy efficiency of the houses. As we will see later, many houses were equipped with very low efficient appliances. And on the other end, the other way we could act to reduce the bills of those families was to reduce the usage of these appliances, but it was not always possible. Thanks to this, as I said before, we monitored for about 6 months the consumption of the families in order to understand all their habits. Then we built a report for each family with customized advices, and in this it was also very important the help of the manager of this social housing condominium, because it let us know the characteristics of the family, also something which could not be monitored, but also because they were in contact with the family for a lot of time. So this was very important. Not everything can be monitored, but the knowledge of those people who are in contact, who know the family very well, is fundamental to reach a successful project. Next slide, please. Okay. So, as I said before, RSC is based in Milan. Therefore, we have a good contacts with different entities in Lombardia and in the north of Italy. Therefore, 55% of the houses we have monitored are located in the north of Italy, about 1/3 in the center of Italy, and about 10% in the south of Italy. Therefore, we are also trying to extend our monitoring in the south of Italy, where we are trying to find new contacts. In total, we monitor 67 houses for almost 225 days. And thanks to this, we are able to match, to compare the composition, the characteristic of each monitor families with the statistical analysis made by ISTAT, which is a National Institute of Statistics in Italy, upon which all the data which are collected in Italy can be made, can be compared in order to find a statistical significance of what we are doing. Next slide, please. So here you can see there are some pictures which show different events with these people. As you see, most of them are old people, but I will give you more details later. There are some newspapers, some brochure. There is also a YouTube video. I don't know if you want to watch, you can just click on it, but I don't know if you have time. It's up to you. And you will see the video we have made to make this project more accessible. Let's see if it works, otherwise okay. The link. Okay. Okay. But otherwise the link is okay.
Sorry, Simone, you have to move
on. Okay, never mind. I mean, the link is in the web, so it's freely available on YouTube, so feel free to watch. Okay, as I said before, most of the people were old people. Most of them were single, mostly widow, because they lost their husband, and basically above 70 years old. The houses were very small. Some people also lived in one room, so one room with a bathroom. And most of them, let's say 1/4 of them, were working in the sector service, while all the others were relying on subsidies, public subsidies, because they were unemployed or they had health issues or different kinds. So this could be a typical picture of vulnerable people in Milan. Next slide, please. So, as you can see here, we have made the comparison between the diffusion of electric appliances in the social housing in Milano, which are the blue bars in the graph, with the statistic, the average Italian household, which are the red bar. As you can see, for example, as regards the refrigerator, the washing machine, basically they are the same. But when we move on, also all the other electric appliances, let's take, for example, the oven or the ICT or the washing machine or even the refrigerator, there is a huge difference. So this is due to the fact that all these families had a very low number of electric appliances, but at the same time these electric appliances were quite old and quite inefficient. For example, we found a washing machine which was almost 30 years old. I've never seen such an old washing machine, which was still working. For example, only 8% of them had a dishwasher. So, for example, this shows the condition of the house. So, next slide, please. So, we also found an average annual electric consumption, which was very low compared to the standard Italian household. This shows that these families already spent a very low amount on the electric bill, very low compared to the average Italian family, but it was huge or great or high for based on their income. Therefore, we could not act to further reduce their consumption because they're very low. But what we could do was to try to find some behavior which did not affect their habits routine. For example, there was a lady which had the TV on the whole day because she was alone, she had no family. So we could not say if you turn off the TV, even if when you are not in the room, you would save money. But we had to find other ways to help this lady to lower a little bit their consumption, because it was very important to help this family in other ways, and also because, for example, almost none of them had air conditioning in summer, which could be a problem, especially when we deal with all the people. Most of them spent all their holidays in the house in Milan without going anywhere. So therefore, their house was like some sort of refugee for them, and therefore the usage of some electrodomestics could not be changed at all, as the television, for example. Next slide, please. So this is a share pie chart of how the consumption is split between the different electric appliances. Of course, you can see the refrigerator is almost 1/3 of the consumption. The TV, as I said, almost 15%. As I said before, for most of these people, TV was a companion during their day. And also the washing machine, where it was present, because not all of them had the washing machine. Next slide, please. So, what were the benefits? Here you can see a picture of how the system looked like. There was a display which could be set up. It was set up at then it was closed in a box. Then the box could not be accessible by those people. There was a modem who could transmit the data to the cloud. So, what were the main benefits? The first benefit is to make these people feel part of something. I mean, they were happy to be part of this project, to be considered, to show that energy can also be a way to interact with other people, and also besides some social, let's say, benefits, but they could also get some benefits inside their houses, because some people, for example, didn't even know they could ask for social support. For example, in Italy, we have the bonus for electricity and gas, which could cover part of the expenses. For some of them, we gave this advice that they were eligible for the bonus, and this was very helpful for this family, because they didn't even know before this the bonus existed. We also try to make these people in contact with the social assistant, which for some of them it was very difficult. So this was the way to show that energy can be a way to make these vulnerable people interact, be part of the energy system, and also find a small amount money which can be saved on this on their bill, because they were already starting from a very low consumption. Therefore, we could not get a huge amount of money to be saved. Next slide, please. So, Energia su misura is based on real data. We monitor the data. We had installed these monitoring devices in different parts of Italy. But what is clear, what I think all of you know, that if we give some advice, they can help in the short term. But if we want to find a long-term solution, we have to work on the house. We have to improve the condition of the house, the insulation of the house, to buy new electric appliances, for example, to increase the energy efficiency of the house. I mean, this requires money, but if we can show that if we improve the condition of the houses, the society will get other benefits, because the people, for example, will suffer from less health issues, for example. They will feel more part of the society, they will be more empowered, and therefore become more active in the society. This could cover, at least in part, the cost of improving their energy efficiency. Of course, this is a very, very difficult process, because there are some issues. There are some people some people didn't trust us to enter their apartment, for example, just to show one issue. Other people were just paying the rent, so the owner of the apartment did not have any interest in improving the condition of the apartment which this family lived. So these are all difficult, but if we could find a way to improve the energy efficiency of the house, this will be the long-term solution which could solve the problem. So next slide, please. So this, of course, this good practice can be transferred both at the national level and both at the international level. Of course, these are some pictures to show the places in which we have, in Milano, which we installed the first smart meters. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. Here you can find the email address. If you have any question, please write to me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Samarna. Do we have any questions for Samarna from the floor?
I wrote one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sergio wants to know, his question is, as most of the energy poverty in Italy is located in the south, according to official statistics, and the problem regards cooling in the south of Italy, it is important, do you not think, that it is possible to improve the project in the south of Italy?
Yes. As I said before, we are based in Milano, so we have a lot of contacts, a lot of connection with many institutions located in the north. We are also trying to expand in the south, so it will take some time, but in the end, we will be there. Of course, it's more difficult because we have a long tradition of RSC, is a long tradition of working with the cities in the north. But yes, indeed, we will improve and enlarge, replicate, extend the project also in the south.
What I particularly like about this good practice is the fact that it focuses on operational use of the house. So it looks at all your washing machines and stuff like that. And sometimes we tend to look at this fabric and we invest big money to reduce the consumption. Whereas these are very simple measures. You change out the old washing machine or the old cooker for a new A-rated cooker. So over the course of 5 or 10 years or whatever of use of this equipment, it has a significant impact on energy poverty, and that the homeowner is paying that much less in terms of electricity costs, etc. So I like the fact that it's focusing on this operational use of the house. They don't necessarily sometimes have to change their behavior too much, in that they're going to wash their clothes anyway, but now they're doing it with a more efficient machine. So it's good in the way that it's tackling this problem easily. Do you have any other questions for Samarna?
Okay.
Briefly, just says regarding trust and building
Okay.
participants, how did you overcome this challenge?
Okay, yes, I guess. So, in Milano, there were different condominiums. The first one we went there, we were not successful because all the all the people in there had like, they didn't trust. They said what they want to sell us, basically. So we kind of started, but we never reached the full extent of the project, of the installation of the smart meter and so on. But after this lesson, we learned that in the second and the other condominiums, there were like a management team which was in charge to manage all the daily issues of the people living this huge complex of buildings. So we went to them first. We convinced them of the usefulness of this project. And then with them, we went to the different families because they saw this figure, this condominium manager. And thanks to gaining the trust of the condominium manager, we are able to gain the trust also of the different families. So we have the lesson we learned is that we have to find an ambassador, an intermediary to interact with this family, not just ourselves, we go to the family, but through some people as intermediaries.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have another question from Paolo. Did you also measure their energy consumption using their energy bills? And if so, were these easily accessible?
Yes, when not in the first one, from the second condominium on, yes, people, we gained their trust, so they gave us their bills. We were able to check, to write down their consumption. So it was on a voluntary base, but all the people gave their data. They didn't have any issue because we have already gained the trust thanks to the intermediaries.
And Simona, in terms of the energy efficiency measures that you recommended, such as changing out washing machines or refrigerators or whatever the case may be, did the participants get any state support or grants towards changing out these pieces of equipment?
No, at the moment, no. They could. I mean, there are some foundations, some onlus which make this project, but at the state level, from what I know, they could not access to anything.
Possibly from
finance
or whatever. Local organizations might give them some support, but not state support.
No. Yes, it's third sector, NGOs, onlus, non-profit organization, but not from the state. The state gave only the bonus, which a discount on the bill. This is the only thing which they could get from the state.
Do you have any other questions for Simona?
No, I just have one final question just from myself. You've obviously gathered all this data in relation to all these households. And I'm just wondering, have you used that data to present it back to the municipalities or to your national government to maybe suggest some funding for your vulnerable customers?
Okay. Yes, we have presented the different occasions to our policy maker at different level, local, regional, and the national level. Yes, this is a good practice, but if we want to extend also to other, let's say, other contexts, it will be very, very costly. I mean, we are paid by the government, so we spent a lot of hours. Many colleagues work on this project, but it's not feasible to extend to all the vulnerable families in Italy. But anyhow, some lesson could be found that if we invest some money to solve this problem, we could get some results. So is not a waste of money. So this was the main lesson we were able to transmit, that investing money to solve the energy problem issue is not a waste of money, but it is beneficial to the whole society.
Yeah, it's a good first step.
Yep, thank you.
Do you have any other questions? No, thank you very much for presenting there today, Simona. So we'll move on to our next presenter now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who is Xavier from RetroKit. So I'll pass it over now to Xavier. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you, Ross, for inviting me to contribute to your workshop. I'm really sorry I can't be with you in person today, despite the kind invitation, and also that I haven't been able to join for the rest of the presentation. Is just a very busy time for us at the moment, and tackling COVID cases at home as well, so a bit all over the place. But hopefully this presentation will make up for us and will be of interest to you as well. So maybe next slide, please. I just want to introduce you to RetroKit. So we are a, let's say, clean tech startup based in West Cork, so not too far away from where you are, about an hour along the coastline. And we set up RetroKit in 2020 on the back of a, let's say, 2-year research and development project funded by ACEI, and building on about 25 years of experience within the team. In fact, collectively, it's several decades, but you know, myself personally, I've been involved in sustainable energy for quite a long time. And through that practice, realized that we were at a point where we had a combination of a lot of data available, and also a need to, let's say, support home energy upgrades at a much bigger scale than had been done so far, and also going much deeper when in terms of energy renovation in housing. And so decision making became a significant issue in terms of the scale of the investment required, and therefore having tools like RetroKit helping that the processes and the decision making was increasingly important. So we embarked on a project which is now maturing and reaching commercialization, with a mission to help the sector overall upscale energy renovation, and using innovation and digital solutions to help with climate action and tackling fuel poverty across Europe. I should obviously mention the fact that we've been supported by a number of key stakeholders in Ireland, in terms of public bodies along the way, and our local enterprise office has been really instrumental in our development from that point of view, and Enterprise Ireland directly and indirectly has been supporting us too. And you know, we got a few awards along the way. I'm glad to mention we were shortlisted for the Irish Times Innovation Award in 2020. And we're one of 1,000 efficient solutions for climate action under the Solar Impulse Foundation, which is a global movement. Next slide, please. Overall, you know, possibly, I'm sure you've heard these figures in previous presentation, but maybe to frame the discussion around the scale of the issue, the challenge, and the opportunities. The renovation studies underlying, you know, the Green Deal and the policy development at European level have identified the fact that 75% of European homes have a poor energy performance and need upgrade. And that the housing sector is a very significant part of our climate action requirement, in that 20% of the overall greenhouse gas emissions in Europe are linked to the residential sector. And the other key aspect of that, which I think is the key focus for your workshop, is fuel poverty is a massive problem. About 16% of European households are suffering from fuel poverty. That, if I'm correct, is about 160 million people who cannot pay their bills, or have problems paying their bills, or have problems keeping their homes comfortable. And that problem is only being exacerbated with the current crisis in terms of energy costs. And so that 60% figure is likely to be far exceeded currently. So to tackle all these issues, energy upgrade of homes is a fundamental requirement, and we'll need to upgrade 146 million homes within the next 30 years if we want to achieve climate neutrality. That's about 90,000 homes being upgraded to a deep level of retrofits every week for the next 30 years. So it's a massive endeavor, and from our point of view, also a massive opportunity for growth in terms of employment, in terms of obviously tackling those big issues, but also in terms of investments and business opportunities. So I'd like to move on to the next slide. Thank you. If we zoom in on our little country, energy upgrade of homes is not a new thing. It's been happening for many, many years under different funding schemes by SEI and the department, but there is a very significant step change currently happening. And that's on the back of a strong political commitment and policy framework that's been put in place over the last maybe 3 years with the Climate Action Plan, the program for government, and different policy documents that are, increasingly, or let's say iteratively, reinforced the framework. And we're at the point now where we're moving to action. And a lot of money has been pushed on the table by government, with a commitment of 8 billion euros in public expenditure to be spent this decade under the National Development Plan. About 50% of that will be really dedicated to tackle fuel poverty under the Warm Home Scheme, which provides 100% funding for households, let's say in the private housing sector that are experiencing fuel poverty, generally speaking. So that's funding has been allocated and will deliver about 235,000 homes upgrades by 2030. And for this year, there's 109 million euros committed. The more recent program is the National Home Energy Upgrade Scheme, which is going to be funded at the 4 billion euros. Again by 2030, and that's to tackle private housing, and that's the level of funding will be for those who can afford 50%, and the grants have been commoditized. I won't go into detail of that, but basically the system will be simplified from the different pilots that have happened before, and more straightforward, easier to understand for homeowners. But the key aspect of that is that the central delivery model, let's say, put forward by the government will be the one-stop shops. And I'll explain in a moment what that means and what that one-stop shop do. But the idea is to have a hassle-free process for homeowners to complete deep energy retrofits. And that should deliver in the region of 160,000 home upgrades by the end of this decade again. So overall, we have about commitment for upgrading 400,000 homes, and we anticipate that another 100,000 upgrades will be taking place in the social housing sector, and in particular among the local authorities' housing stock. In total, that will lead to an investment of about 25 billion euros between the 8 billion I've mentioned before from public funding, and the balance will be privately funded, and that's a massive opportunity in terms of financial bodies providing adequate solutions for homeowners in that space. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned earlier the one-stop shop model, which is a clear departure from what's been, let's say, the model until recently, whereby the homeowners had to do pretty much everything and had to deal with designers, contractors, funding authorities, BR assessors, get their funds organized themselves, which is a big burden from, let's say, the skills that requires the time commitment and the costs. And also the lack of integration in the process can also lead to suboptimal quality as well. And the model that's put forward now is the one-stop shop model, whereby that entity takes ownership of the delivery of the project pretty much from start to finish, and provide a turnkey solution to the homeowner in a single point of contact between the different stakeholders, again, the contractors, the funding authority, let's say the BR assessors, the engineers, the designer, and also as a role to provide quality control and to, let's say, educate and help support the homeowner along the journey, and removing the hassle of coordinating the projects, managing the contractors individually, and also another part of the puzzle is to bring that financial package together. So that's starting to emerge now, where there's consortium, one-stop shop consortium include financial bodies, for example, ANPOS together with SSE Electricity, and a key aspect of that is to develop a plan, a tailored plan for the dwelling, for the homeowner, with all the technical assessment required, the recipe if you want to achieve the necessary targets. In Ireland, we are aiming to achieve a B2 across the board, and a financial plan that comes with that in terms of grant, in terms of energy credits, and private finance as well from banks or credit unions, etc. Next slide, please. So how is RetroKit positioning itself in supporting the work of One Stop Shop? So we've been developing RetroKit over the last, let's say, 5 years, initially targeting the social housing sector, where for us the key thing was to achieve scale and to work with what we'd call project aggregators. Looking at the evolution of the marketplace and the demands from the home energy upgrade sector, and through ongoing discussions, we've then realized actually RetroKit is a platform that could be adapted to meet their requirements as well, i.e., the requirements of the one-stop shop. So over the last year, we've been adapting our platform to deliver a number of functionalities, if you want. The first one is to provide a data management system. You'll see the next slide that the process is quite let's say, an extensive one. There's a lot of different steps, there's a lot of different stakeholders, and flowing the right data from start to finish to support decision making, to support delivery of projects, the planning of projects is very important. So from that point of view, having a platform that helps the data flow and managing that data from start to finish, and that's secure, obviously, it is very important. The other aspect is that we developed let's say, a modeling tool that helps the one-stop shop or possibly homeowners to model a range of different options, what we call scenarios of energy upgrade, and are then presented with a series of KPIs that help them understand what's best for that particular dwelling, what are the costs, what are the measures required, and what are the grants available, etc. So, it all combines with the data management system, very powerful analytics that allows that to do extremely quickly at individual dwelling level, but also at whole stock level. So in the case of a social housing body like Cork City Council, for example, who's one of our early adopters, where they're dealing with 8,000, 10,000 housing units, having the ability to do this kind of modeling rapidly across the whole housing stock and develop a roadmap for the housing stock is very useful. And in the context of one-stop shop, equally, at the end of this year, they'll have in their pipeline possibly several thousands of homes. So You know, it helps them manage that scale of data and volume of project much easier than had been the case so far. We've also developed a user interface that helps, you know, make decisions, get the right information quickly in a kind of user-friendly way that allows, you know, to understand and make decisions as, let's say, seamlessly as possible. There's also a mapping application built in RedKit, whereby all the dwellings within the database are geolocated, and that allows housing authorities or one-stop shop to start planning project on an area base. So it might be, let's say, you know, next year we want to focus on homes in Bishopstown, for example, and the map allows you to select the homes within that area and to create a project out of that selection, and then move forward with the project development from there. Whereby there is a significant improvements in productivity when that happens, and that's coordinated at the geographical level. And for a one-stop shop, it might be, you know, the pipeline is building up, and we realize with clients within the same locality, the map is very useful to visualize that, to understand that, and gather the data required at that level to start the process. Our platform is hosted here in Ireland on Amazon servers, who are powerful, very secure, and it's an online application, so it's cloud-based and always accessible. Next slide, please. So that's just to, as I said earlier, to illustrate the process in a relatively linear way, but it kind of shows the extent of the level of interactions that need to happen between the different stakeholders, and how data needs to flow from one step to the next, so that projects can be delivered efficiently and achieving quality in the process. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot of how effectively RedKit works. It's a few kind of user interface screenshots, if you want, of how the platform has evolved to service the needs of one-stop shops in particular. So on the top left side, we start with the data acquisition process. And here in Ireland, BR data, so energy performance certificate data, is hosted on a national administration system managed by SCI. And RedKit is a trusted partner whereby we can use SCI's API to retrieve that data and bring that data into RedKit's platform, and from where we start building a database of the house, the dwellings, and the housing stock we'll be dealing with. So within that database, we've got all the data that pertains to the dwellings from an energy performance point of view, covering the fabric, the energy systems, and the associated KPIs in terms of energy efficiency, renewable energy, etc. As I mentioned to you, we have a map that is very useful to help with managing projects on an area basis, and also to organize projects, you know, at the local level. Once the data is in, first of all, we've got a snapshot of the current situation of every dwelling from what we call the baseline point of view, and then we can start the modeling. So we can model any kind of scenario under the sun effectively. There's about 56 different energy retrofit measures built in our database, and you can build a scenario by simply selecting a range of measures with a number of default scenarios between a shallow or medium or a deep retrofit. And once that scenario is selected and applied, the modeling very quickly gives you feedback as to the impact of that scenario through a series of KPIs covering, let's say, the BR rating, covering the energy consumption, the energy expenditure, the level of renewable energy supply, the CO2 emissions, and so on, shall we say. There's a number of approximately 6-7 KPIs we present straight away to the user. And again, we can compare a range of scenarios very quickly and start optimizing what the right measure should be for a given dwelling. For example, if the purpose is to decarbonize, that might push you in a certain direction in terms of deciding what measures to apply. If it's about tackling fuel poverty first of all and reducing energy costs, that might be a different criteria and a different approach in the modeling and the optimization process. And RetroKit will help you define your priorities, your constraints in terms of budget, and then deliver what's the best option to achieve the required targets. Typically in Ireland, it'd be to achieve a B2 to comply with the funding requirements. And once a scenario has been identified as being the optimal one, the next step is to translate that into, let's say, an action plan for the homeowner, or for that matter, for the local authority or the social housing body, maybe at a bigger scale. And that might be a 10-year renovation plan for the local authority, for example. But if we keep the focus on the individual homeowner in the context of the one-stop shop business model, then we produce what we call a home energy upgrade plan, which we hope, and proof will be in the pudding, but is, let's say, accessible and easy to understand, but very factual and evidence-based for the homeowner to start making decisions. Yes, that's what I want, or maybe I'd like something a bit different. And then there's a level of interaction that might happen between the one-stop shop and the homeowner at that stage. But once the final, let's say, proposal and plan is adopted, then that can be translated into a contract. And on the left-hand side of the screen, we can also generate specifications for the project that might go towards the procurement process with a panel of contractors. So that's the range of solutions we have currently deployed, and we're piloting with a number of one-stop shops that are emerging from the launch of the program by SCI. Next slide, please. It's worth mentioning that we're constantly experimenting, and we've been working very closely with a number of community organizations working at a local level towards, let's say, developing their own one-stop shop. And the kind of solutions we've developed and implemented with them include energy master plans that might be a strategic plan for a local area, a town, a village, a city in some cases, as to how can we upgrade the housing stock at that scale, right? So it's more like from a planning perspective. We've also delivered energy clinics whereby homeowners can call us. Typically we do that online, and we spend an hour with them answering their questions, guiding them, providing feedback, advice, and then following up with information. We also work with BR assessors and energy auditors who use RetroKit to provide their services to homeowners and to one-stop shops increasingly. And a key deliverable in that context is the home energy upgrade plans, as I've described them earlier. Next slide, please. How am I doing on time, Rose? Am I okay?
No, you're okay.
Yeah, great. So, Rose, you sent me a list of bullet points as to maybe points you wanted me to address in the context of looking at RetroKit as a good practice, and I think we're a good practice in the fight against fuel poverty. So maybe a few pointers in that regard. Well, first and foremost, we're dealing here with a massive investment. At Irish scale, it's 9 billion euros. That's a lot of money. That will be invested in our homes and that will be dedicated to fuel poverty by 2030. So with RetroKit, we have a tool that helps evidence-based decision-making and planning in optimizing that investment to make sure we deliver best results out of the process. Secondly, there is within the program mentioned before, that should deliver 235,000 fuel-poor homes upgrades by 2030. So the scale is enormous. And we believe digital solutions will be very instrumental in achieving that scale by improving productivity, reducing costs, and overall helping with governance. As I mentioned earlier, it's a massive public investment in our housing infrastructure, and it's very important that we deliver impact, and quality is a very important issue from that point of view. And again, by offering, let's say, data and intelligence, RetroKit will help underlie good governance processes, monitoring what happens in the housing stock, and also managing the quality of those projects. And because RetroKit can talk to other applications, in particular with SEI systems around the grant management, we can help the sector really flow and share the required information to deliver, to help with delivering that impact. You also asked me, you know, what's the costs of all that, and in our case, building infrastructure has been a long-term project. I think we've started really the process about 5 years ago, but the intensive development has been happening over the last 4 years. I won't mention figures, but it certainly runs in several hundred thousands of euros of investment in financial resources and human resources. And so, you know, it's a big endeavor at any scale. But we believe it's well worth doing, and you know, there is very clear signs now that hopefully that investment is going to pay for us, but more importantly for our clients. Next slide, please. So you, again, in terms of evidence of success, for us, there's different, let's say, markers in that regard. The first one is that, you know, public funding bodies like Enterprise Ireland, like our LEO, SCIs have invested in us. You know, they've provided funding to get us where we are, and that's been very important and a strong validation of what we want to achieve. And also we are starting to demonstrate good market fits with early adopters. Again, you know, Cork City Council and Cork County Council adopted RetroKit from the start and have been extremely supportive in us designing, developing, testing, and deploying our solutions, and you know, supporting us with income as well. And at this stage, having diversified RetroKit to address the needs of different market segments, you know, we're starting to get clients in all these segments. So for us, that's a key validation. The challenges and how we overcome them, well, you know, keeping the show on the road is a constant challenge in terms of cash flow, importantly, and again, the support we've received is very important, but also really focusing on rapid commercialization. So understanding that, you know, let's develop solutions now, doesn't have to be perfect, let's deploy them, let's learn from that and keep the show moving. Let's use what we have to start generating revenue. It's been very important in balancing the books. And for me personally, but also for many members in the team, you know, we've kind of moved from being consultants to becoming tech entrepreneurs. So there's been a steep learning curve in that regard, and kind of change of mindset in many ways, and training, mentoring, and learning by doing has been very important in that regard. And for us, it's also about making sure that what we're doing is what our clients want and need. And so very much from the start, we've applied a co-design approach to what we're doing. We're constantly listening to our clients. So my job is partly to sell RetroKit, and but really my approach in doing that is really to try and listen to what our clients' problems are, their pain points, and to share with them and understand from them how we can help them. And then the development process follows that through rapid, minimal viable product development cycles, where we can deploy those solutions, learn from it, and constantly improve in the process. In terms of replication to other regions, there's a number of pointers in that regard. First of all, RetroKit complies with the European directives that are relevant in terms of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive, and all the, let's say, standards that underlie the implementation of those directives. And so, and that would be the case across Europe in terms of calculation methodologies and data underlying the energy performance certificate system. And so translating and adapting RedKit to other markets in Europe is something that is highly achievable and that we hope to start doing in the near future. And also within the team, intimate understanding and knowledge of the energy performance certificate system in Ireland and how that's been a key foundation block for the implementation of the different funding programs I've mentioned before, but also the creation and the development of RedKit as a platform. And that we believe is exemplary at European level, not from just RedKit point of view, obviously, but from what national governments and local governments have done in that regard. And so we can bring that experience and that expertise to other European countries as part of our offering as well. Next slide, please, which is the last. So obviously, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Get in touch. You've got my contact details there. If you want to find out more, you can obviously go onto our website, follow us on LinkedIn or on Twitter. We will be at the Energy Show next week on stand G15. So obviously, if you're around, come and say hello. We'll give you a demo. We'll talk to you and find out more about how we could support you in your processes. And finally, I'm very conscious that the Interact Northwest Europe Call 1 is out, and that we are very open to discuss and develop partnerships with you if that is of interest. And that's an open invitation again to call me and discuss that. With that, I'd like to say thank you, and I'm available for questions and answers.
And just to say, the Interreg Europe first call is also open, just if anyone is looking at possible opportunities for applications under that.
Thank you, Xavier. That was a very interesting presentation there. Do we have any questions for Xavier from the floor?
I actually have a question. Xavier, I just wonder, I'm very interested in what you're doing here, in particular, I suppose the work that you're doing with, I know Cork City Council are involved with it, but I think using the data mechanism and linking in with SAI to have at least an element of knowledge about the quality of the properties using the BAR search, I think that's really useful. But I suppose what I'm interested in is, you know, what other local authorities are you interacting with, or how do you propose to scale this up around the country? I can see real value in, you know, any of the local authorities with substantial social housing stock using this method to highlight where the most vulnerable properties in their housing stock would be.
Yes. Well, absolutely, and local authorities have been a key, let's say, target market for us as a business from the start, and very much RedKit was really developed and designed to service their needs in priority. And as you've mentioned, you know, we've 2 early adopters close to home. We obviously are open for business with any other local authority across Ireland. You know, the same platform, the same mechanism would apply. And we, you know, let's say we've been engaging with a number of them. We're progressing our pipeline in that regard, and we hope to meet some of them at least next week. And we're also following what's happening in terms of public tenders. And we've actually been, it's interesting to see how the market evolves, right? And how we can service the needs of, let's say, the social housing sector through different, let's say, partnerships. And in some cases, we have been working with the engineers that are managing the energy retrofit projects for local authorities, which is the current model. So we kind of provide the tools for the engineers to do their job better, quicker, more efficiently for local authorities. But overall, it would be very beneficial for local authorities to have RedKit as a platform to use the intelligence that's available there to start planning better their project. And my understanding overall is that there's a push by the department to build in-house capacity within local authorities to drive, to take ownership further of projects. And Retrofit is the ideal tool to help them do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, any other question? Brian, has a question from the floor?
Thank you, Xavier, for an excellent presentation. We're actually using this product now, and for us in terms of selecting properties for our retrofit program, so we can do it by area, we can do it by property size, we can do it by, you know, what does it need? Does it need a heat pump? We can select it on that basis. So it offers up a wide range, because one of the things we got to do at the start of this project is to have a diverse range of properties and a diverse range of needs, so that nationally they get a handle on how to drive it forward at a faster pace. So it's ideal from our point of view for that purpose, and we would highly recommend.
And can you use this then to push it back up to the department?
No, at the moment the departments are setting the pace.
So you can't take this, do whatever, bring properties from it, and then go back and say, listen, this is where we are now. Push it back the other way.
That will happen in time, but we're at the very start of the project now, and the department are setting the pace within their constraints, because they have constraints as well. And one of their constraints is to show that things are improving. So for them, quantums are important. So you're kind of looking at the low-hanging fruit within deep retrofit.
But it's a great benchmarking process for you to have this.
Oh, absolutely.
You're starting here,
yeah.
and then you can see improvement over 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
You can keep that back to the department and say, look what we've done.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to use it for our dashboard, the local authority dashboard. We're going to put today some small segment of data from retrofit. So it's beyond that dashboard before the end of the year.
Yeah, and it'll keep changing as stuff happens. Anyway.
Yeah, once a year we'll update it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Xavier?
Just thanks again, Xavier, for your informative presentation.
Thanks to you.
Home energy upgrade plan, it provides a very infographic roadmap for the homeowner, but does it provide approximate costs for the specific measures recommended?
Absolutely. So within our energy conservation measures database, I mentioned about 56 different measures. Each of those measures would have a unit cost, and with the data that's available for the dwelling, for example, the area of external walls or roof areas, etc., we can generate a bill of quantity and costings for each project. And again, that might be as a part of the home energy upgrade plan, which would list the measures required to achieve the B2 with the cost breakdown to do that, the overall budget, the grants that would go with that, and potentially the value of the energy credits, so that you've got a full picture of the cost, but also the benefits in terms of anticipated energy savings in euro terms. And again, you know, that can be aggregated at housing stock level. So again, for a local authority that's dealing with thousands of homes, having the ability to develop a budget for this year, next year, and for the next 10 years can be very useful from a programming point of view, and from, let's say, engaging with management on that front, and with funding authorities as well.
Yeah, I suppose as well, and it allows you to track trends in terms of pricing, etc.
Yeah. That's very important, and obviously in the current context of the rapid inflation we're seeing, for us keeping to the very close to the pulse in that regard, and we work with quantity surveyors that have been helping us to upgrade and update our database. And, you know, and the last iteration was in November last year. But with time, we also want to maybe create a community of users which would allow, or possibly sharing some of that information with their peers in the social housing sector, for example, so that we've got a richer cost database that can be used by our clients, and also you know, in terms of benchmarking can be very useful.
Okay. Any other questions for Xavier? No? Okay, Xavier, thanks very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, everyone, first of all, for joining us over the last 2 days. I'd like to make a personal thank you to our wonderful host and moderator, and his colleague, Colin O'Mahony, who has joined us here. And thank you not just for what everybody is seeing today and yesterday, but for all the hard work that went on in the background to prepare for this. That's very, very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank all of our presenters, some of who were able to attend here in person, and also some who joined us online. And a lot of those came from our Empower project partners, so thank you very much. And for those that are in the room, our Polish partners and our Italian partners, thank you very much. But also to all of the stakeholders who came here and worked with us and have worked with us over the last number of years on the Empower project. And we had a lot of presentations and support from UCC over the last day and a half, from Cork City Council. We had the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub from Brussels appearing at our event, which was absolutely wonderful. We had Eileen O'Connor from the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communication. So you can see from an Irish context, we have support coming from a national level, from a regional level, from a local level, and coming from our public sector, our local authorities, academia, researchers. So there's a huge amount of interest in energy poverty, a huge amount of support, a huge recognition of how important this idea is and why we need to tackle it now. And hopefully from this event, we're going to get some great ideas that we can share with the elected members of the Southern Regional Assembly, that we can disseminate out to all of our local authorities in the Southern region. And I would like to personally thank you for all your support for what I think was a wonderful, inspiring, and very beneficial event. And to all of our stakeholders, all of our presenters, all of our project partners, thank you very much. We really appreciate your work. Thank you, everybody.
I'd just like to echo exactly what Rose has said. I think this has been a very important event. It was never more important than it is now. 5 or 6 months ago when we started it, we thought it was relevant, but little did we know that within the failing 6 months that it would become so important for everybody. So I think over the last 2 days, as Rose has said, we've had the people in the room that we needed to have in the room. So we had the academics, we've had the national government. So we've also had people that are actually doers. There's projects being done. So we've had demonstrations here, presentations of actual projects that are actually making a difference in real life. It's not just a talk shop, it's a doing shop. So I know Derek Roddy there from Energy Cloud, he contacted us yesterday after the event, and now he's trying to push on again with his board, and he felt that this event was really a good lift for him and a lever for him to get things moving a bit more on his end. So already we're seeing positive action from this event, and it's not even a day old. So clearly there's a lot more to do, but I think between all the different people that have engaged in this event, we all have the same goal. We all seem to have the knowledge. There's more knowledge out there. We just need to spread the word, and things are starting to happen. So I'd like to personally thank my colleague Colin O'Mahony, 3CEA, who's been working heavily on this project with me. Rose, Catherine, we've all been together working on this, lots and lots of meetings, etc. But we're here and we've done it. I'd particularly like to thank the people that gave up their time to travel from overseas. Zanetta, Ava from Poland, Sergio from Italy, and we had tourists yesterday from Greece. We had people travel down from basically the north of Ireland. We have people here from Cork, etc., etc. So I know, like, everybody has other things that they wish they were doing or whatever, but I'm glad that you gave up your time to support this event in the Southern Regional Assembly. So I'd like to thank you all, and we'll see you in the next cartoon.